Good evening and welcome to your latest update video. And in this video tonight, we're going to focus on the storm potential in southeast Queensland and northeast New South Wales tomorrow. First of all, I just got the actual storm potential map up at the moment. And as you can see by the key down the bottom here, yellow is low, orange is enhanced, red is moderate, and purple is high. So translation, the yellow would be possible storms, the orange is storms are likely, the red would be severe storms possible, and the purple would be severe storms likely. So that will include supercells in this particular case, as I'll explain later on. So we've got quite a big area from Rockhampton down through to around Port Macquarie, Port Macquarie inland. So Tamworth, Glen Innes, those kind of areas are in the firing line. Now, with the way the conditions are tomorrow, this area where it's yellow, I wouldn't be surprised if anything big formed there as well. So this should only be taken as a guide like anything, because we don't know what will happen until it happens. We can say what we think will happen based on the forecast data, but the actual atmosphere on the day will be what decides where things form and how strong they get. So we're pretty confident that it's going to be a big day. That we can say that much, and pretty much sure that we're going to get see a fair amount of supercells around the area. So let's get into the other bits and pieces of this to explain why we feel the way we feel. First of all, we'll go into the sweat index. Now, the sweat index here, on the scale down the bottom, it goes up to 440. And obviously, we're seeing here this grey area. It means it's off the scale that this particular model, or at least Weather Watch, shows. So these amounts are incredibly high and very rare to see in Australia, but we see them more so at this time of year. Now, to explain the actual what it all means and what figures are what. So when we talk about sweat, we are talking about the severe weather threat index, not sweating like a pig in a fit because it's hot. So the figures we see here, so you see down the bottom here, we've got the figures. So basically anything over 300, which will be from this little thing, so that darker red color, tells us that there will be severe storms. So a lot of these dark colors around here, around there, down here, and including across some parts of northeast New South Wales here, and even down towards Kempsey and Port Macquarie that are just off this map, there's potential for severe thunderstorms tomorrow. Now, these purple areas where we start getting close to 400 will be indicating high-end supercells. Anything over 400 often indicates the potential for tornadoes. Now, before people panic, this doesn't mean tornadoes are going to form. It's still a fairly low risk, but with totals this high, the chance is there. So basically, just to be aware of, so I have the live radar up and I'll be giving commentary and pointing out anything that I notice during the day, but just be aware of warnings and take action if needed. But these storms are looking quite volatile, and there's definitely a chance of some high-end supercells. The hazards that we will mostly see will be damaging wind gusts or destructive wind gusts associated with microbursts. We will see some large hail about, possibly up to giant hail. So large hail is anything over 2 centimeter, and giant hail is anything over 5 centimeter. So we saw some giant hail around today, and tomorrow is likely to be the same. And the other hazard is heavy rainfall that could lead to flash flooding. Now we'll just have a look at the next measure here. Okay, so here we're looking at another measure that's called totals, or total totals. It's another measure of instability, and it also reinforces the potential for severe storms out here. So with the totals, the index is, if it's 45 to 50, thunderstorms are possible. 50 to 55, thunderstorms are likely and they could be severe. And anything between 55 and 60 indicates severe thunderstorms are likely. Now, as we can see with this grayed out area again, some of these totals are exceeding the scale at the bottom here. And it's those totals that indicate the possibility for high-end supercells again. So that's reinforcing the other index that I showed you not too long ago. Now the next scale we got here is the CAPE. So CAPE is connective available potential energy, and it basically tells us how much energy should be in the atmosphere for storms to access, and that will usually dictate how strong they get. Now for southeast Queensland, we've got some very, very high CAPE around. It's not off the scale this time, because if it was, then it would be record breaking for worldwide CAPE, which is about, I think the highest CAPE ever recorded in the world is like 8,000. So if it was higher than that, then damn. But anyway, but over 2,000 up into 2,500 is pretty high. Even the 1,600, 1,500 values is pretty good for southeast Queensland as well. And with the trough that's expected to come push east, it won't take a hell of a lot to get things moving. So the CAPE, the energy available is plentiful for tomorrow. Okay, the next we'll look at is the lifted index here. So lifted index is the temperature difference between the actual air temperature and the theoretical parcel of air that would be rising through the atmosphere. So it's measured when it's minus, it's indicating an unstable atmosphere. And when it's plus, so if it's any pluses, which this particular scale doesn't have the plus marks, it's just white for anything that's in the plus. So we're looking at quite low minimums here, down to -9, -8. Now this indicates that the storm should form pretty quickly. So we should see some rapid development, as that air is fairly warmer. So the theoretical air parcel that will be rising is quite a bit warmer than the surrounding air as it rises. So that will give it a bit of a speed boost as it goes up. Now we're just going to look at what could kill it, which pretty much is nothing, especially over southeast Queensland. The SIN, which is convective inhibition index, is a measure of telling us how much of a capping inversion is in the atmosphere. So what that usually means is a layer of the atmosphere is warmer than the theoretical air parcel that would be trying to rise. And if it's warmer than that, then it indicates a stable atmosphere. and it will not rise. But anything under about 100 is usually indicates that it's an unstable atmosphere. So in the cases of these blue areas, there's going to be very little to stop things going up. Now these areas down here, I think these are probably a little over exaggerated. Just seems a little bit, considering with the surrounding areas, just seems a bit of an outlier these. So there may be a bit of capping going on over here, but I don't think it's going to be kind of this high. So basically tomorrow, it looks like that nothing will stop the event moving forward. So we're definitely lacking that cap. So convection can happen freely, which means the air can rise up and form the thunderclouds and supercells that we're expecting tomorrow. So before I end this video, we're just going to touch up on the forecast radar. Now the XSC forecast radar is actually pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, it doesn't get it always correct, but it gives you a very good idea of where things are going to form. So this is for midday, and it's a simulated forecast of what the radar could look like by that point. So what we're seeing here is a few storms dotted around, a big mass down here, which probably won't happen, but we'll see what happens tomorrow, but it's unlikely to be a big mass at this point. And as we move through the hours, you see the activity increase before starting to weaken later in the day as it moves towards the coast. So basically, in a nutshell, what we're expecting tomorrow is to have some supercells forming, which will produce the hazards that I mentioned earlier of damaging or destructive winds. Destructive winds will most likely come from microbursts, but tornadoes can't be ruled out, especially in the unpopulated areas. By the time it gets to the coast, maybe not so much, hopefully. We will see large to heavy hailstorms with some of these cells, and heavy rain that could lead to flash flooding. Now, if some of these cells stay discrete, which basically means they're on their own, when you get a discrete storm, it's not part of a cluster, so it can basically use all the energy around it and become a stronger storm than if it was in a cluster. So if we do get some of those, then that's where we're going to see the bigger storms forming. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully we get a bit more of a cluster, because it will actually decrease the severity a bit. But we'll just have to see how we go. So I will have the live radar up as I did today, and any points of interest or questions I get thrown, I'll answer, or any significant events I'll also talk people and cover it with. So yeah, so tomorrow should be an interesting day, but look out for the storm coverage that I will do live, and we will take it from there. Have a good night, and thank you for listening.